How Rolf Harris's family was torn apart as he blamed sick child abuse stash on grandson and cost daughter relationship. His heinous crime sickened the world, and tore his family apart in the process. Now the documentary Rolf Harris, Hiding in Plain Sight, which airs on ITV tonight, re-examines how the disgraced TV star was caught. In 2014, Harris, who died aged 93 in May, was found guilty of 12 counts of indecent assault against 4 women, then aged between 13 and 19, in the 70s and 80s. The pedophile served nearly 3 years in prison before being released on license in 2017, and lived a reclusive life afterwards. While some members of Harris's family cut all ties, many stuck by him, including loyal wife Alwen Hughes, who was by his side in court despite claims he'd had multiple affairs. The jeweler and sculptor, now in her 90s, met Harris at art school and they were married for 65 years before he died. Long-suffering wife Alwen, who has Alzheimer's disease, has never spoken out about her husband and has been painted by some as a long-suffering partner. In 2014, singer Vince Hill, who was close to the family, said it was feared Harris's wife would drop down dead from the stress of the trial. He said, "Alwen is very poorly. We're all very worried about her. I don't know if she will survive his prison term. She's quite fragile. She suffers from arthritis and she's had hip replacements and God knows what." In the documentary, Chris Brosnan, Harris's former bandmate and surrogate son, suggests their marriage was troubled long before his crimes came to light. He claims the TV entertainer was consistently pushing a boundary, alleging he'd cheated on Alwen on countless occasions. When it came to women, it was impossible for Rolf to think about his wife and his daughter, he said. In front of Alwen he'd take a woman's hand, hold their hand and pull them in closer. Then he would start kissing them all the way up their arm and he'd get up to their neck and then he'd be kissing their neck. Chris claimed Alwen was devastated by his affairs and was left suicidal due to him constantly working away. When Harris had an extension built on his house, Alwen was said to have moved into the new wing so that she was as far away from him as she could get. Harris's only child, daughter Bindi, has always defended her father, despite her own childhood friends speaking out. It came at a price, notably the end of her 4-year relationship with Malcolm Cox, with whom she had a son, Marlon. Malcolm said hearing the account from Bindi's childhood friend, who claimed Harris subjected her to 16 years of abuse, destroyed their relationship. In 1996, the survivor claimed they told Malcolm and Bindi about being sexually abused by Harris from her early teens. Malcolm said the revelations immeasurably changed his attitude towards Harris having access to their son, then 6 months old. He recalled ripping up a photo of Harris and his son immediately after, and said his relationship with Bindi ended acrimoniously. Meanwhile, Bindi was said to have smashed up 2 of her father's paintings, wanted to stab him with a fork, and felt suicidal, but she later forgave him. She said, "I realize we are all human and realized I had him on a pedestal. Now I see him as a father and as a man." In 2018, Bindi wrote a book called Living with a Pervert, in which she said her dad was no kitty fiddler and called his victims liars, cheaters, and thieves. The memoir was never published, but in extracts seen by the Daily Star she defended Harris's behavior as flirty, adding, "It's harmless and you know it doesn't lead anywhere." She added, "He loves a flirt, which he does very openly, much to my embarrassment. But I have met many a man from my dad's generation like that." Bindi, who has battled depression, has since sought to put her father's toxic legacy behind her. Earlier this month, the Sun revealed she changed her name to help progress her art career, and now goes by Ava Reeves. A source close to the family said, "Obviously, anything by a Harris is pretty much unsellable, so Bindi is working under the pseudonym in a bid to be taken seriously in the art world. Bindi has been married to school teacher Craig Nichols since 2008. Chris Brosnan admitted he was instantly drawn to Harris after they first met at a charity event in 1998, sharing a passion for playing the didgeridoo. The 6'5" in. The 6'5" musician, whom Harris nicknamed Bear, joined his band and became one of his closest confidants. Chris told the Daily Mail he was considered an adopted son to Harris and spent 11 years living in the basement of his £5 million mansion in Bray, Berkshire. He said, "I was his son, chauffeur, man Friday. Confidant. It's almost incomprehensible to me that the Rolf I saw charming the Queen or lighting up the faces of kids inside hospital is a disgusting pedophile." Chris claimed to have been swept up in Planet Rolf and was unable to see the warning signs, despite some concerning comments. He recalled, "One time he ran a joke past me. It was a sick gag about a woman being gang-raped by the Australian cricket team. We were driving to a corporate dinner and I said, 'Rolf, you can't tell that,' and he said, 'Why not? It's bloody funny.' I told him it was offensive and he was like, 'Oh, okay, Bear.'" Chris claimed his need for a father figure in his life led him to turn a blind eye to Harris's many affairs and predatory comments. The last straw, when Chris realized Harris's warped and twisted desires, came after the star made a remark about two young schoolgirls in uniforms. Harris allegedly said, "My God, look at them. Aren't they lovely? Don't you just want to them?" Chris said it was like a kick to my gut, but he never in a million years thought he was acting on those urges. Like a lot of his fans, I was in denial. In reality, he was the worst kind of monster, he said. Chris spoke out in 2015 after Harris sent him a letter from prison. When he claimed to be loving his time behind bars and described victims as slimy little worms who had joined the feeding frenzy. Chris slammed his lack of remorse and questioned why he wasn't forced to do counseling that would make him face up to his crimes and take responsibility. Grandson blamed for child porn stash. Marlon Cox, the son of Bindi and Malcolm, has not spoken publicly about his grandfather but was quizzed by police, according to Chris. Chris claimed he received a sinister phone call from one of Harris's aides when Operation U-Tree was looking into the star. It emerged Harris had tried to blame a stash of child abuse images on Marlon and his nephew Buzz, who lived in Australia. Chris told the Daily Mail, "This person asked me if I had ever used Rolf's computer to look at porn. They said they were also questioning Rolf's grandson Marlon Cox, who was only 15 at the time, and his nephew Buzz, who lives in Australia." Chris said Harris's computer was password protected so only the star could unlock it. He believed the disgraced musician would throw anyone under the bus to save himself. Chris said, "I was shocked and furious. Rolf never accepts responsibility and still hasn't. What sort of man casts a shadow over his friends and family? Rather than say yes, it was me, he was happy to shift suspicion to the people around him to try to take the heat off himself." Harris's brother Bruce managed the star's career since the early 80s. He was among his strongest supporters and even took to the stand to refute claims by Harris's accusers. Bruce insisted it was just not possible that Harris could have behaved inappropriately towards women, children, or anyone. He said, "I have never seen him doing anything unpleasant to anybody. I would have noticed because I appreciate that these things can happen and I would be watching for anything that would be inappropriate." Bruce denied the claims of TV show makeup artist Susie Dent, who said he was in the same room when Harris molested her multiple times. She said Harris groped her more than 24 times on the day of the attack in 1986, when she was 24, and insisted he didn't stop touching me. While being cross-examined in court, Bruce called her claims ridiculous, arguing, he would never do that and I wouldn't let him do that. It's just not possible. I would have stopped him. I would have taken the elder brother's view of a younger brother misbehaving. While Harris was in prison in 2016, the Crown Prosecution Service announced he would face 7 further indecent assault charges, for alleged crimes between 1971 and 2004. 1 year later, Harris was acquitted of 3 and the jury was prevented from deliberating on a further 4. At a retrial for those 3 charges and 1 new charge in 2017, the jury failed to reach a verdict and the prosecution announced they would not seek another retrial. Outside court, Bruce welcomed the decision but said, "The key thing from my point of view is we've got to overturn this pedophile story, which is wrong.